welcome all to our Thursday night classes. If you're just joining us, welcome. I can see we have a bunch of guests already over here in the Blog Talk Radio chat room, and thank you for joining us. If you go through there, you'll see that we did drop a link in. That'll be our link of study for tonight. I will talk you through exactly what to do, since that link does have thousands upon thousands of pages. So we'll make it real simple, and we will talk everybody through exactly what to do. So if you go ahead and open up that link into a separate tab, and we'll get started here in just a few minutes on that. How you doing, Jose?
I'm doing all right. How about you, Doc?
Alrighty. You guys are going to have to let me know if my mic fades in and out. I think I have a pinch in my wire, and I'm due for a new headset. So if it goes out and comes back on, just let me know. I'll try to put the wire in a different location and hope we can get through the show with it until I can get a chance to run out and get another one. Oh, boy. Jose, did you get that link?
Yeah,
right,
I got the link.
Good deal. All right. Also have our regulars, as always, over there on the Freedom Range chat side. If you're on the Blog Talk Radio chat, that's the very top link. That is our regular chat room. That is open all the time, 24/7. So please feel free to go ahead and bookmark that link as well. Before we get into tonight's studies and all, we have a couple minutes to spare because I want to give everybody enough time to get in. A couple of people have said they're having a little bit of trouble tonight. So we'll give them a little extra time before we get started into the classes, because I know it's something everybody's been looking forward to. So with that, you have anything on your mind you want to talk about for current events or anything else going on, Jose?
Well, actually, there's some very interesting current events going on. Turns out that the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, is trying to put together or actually decipher some sort of a case up against Obama, because he went around the Senate while the Senate was still in session, and I guess put a bunch of people into a bunch of key positions, his czars and stuff. And I guess that maybe he made some senators angry or something. I don't know. But it looks like he might be up for impeachment, and there'll be an impeachment trial. And I was thinking to myself, well, what kind of an impact would that have on what's going on these days? Well, about the only thing that I can think of is if they take Obama out, that should slide Joe Biden right into the presidential position, meaning that the current Secretary of State becomes the actual vice president. And I don't think we can trust Joe Biden at all. I mean, that guy's scary. He's insane. I can see it just in his eyes. That guy's gone. Beyond that, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff happening. Most of it is just, blah, blah, blah. Talking heads. Keep going. Other than that, it's really been a eventless sort of a week. Or at least for me. I don't know about anybody else. You got anything else on that, Doc?
Nope. Wife's just walking in the door with food for the kids and that, so might hear some background noise. Adaptive player, alternate player. Yeah, a couple of people are still having trouble, which seems to be the norm around here, but that's okay. All good. No, if you guys have had time, please go to that link. If you missed it, I posted it again. There we go, in the Freedom Range chat, because I know that one goes by much faster than the Blog Talk Radio chat room. If you click on that link, and that's where we're going to be starting at tonight. Remember, this is all about everything we do. Last 4 years, all the classes, all the lessons, it all leads you up, and everything comes back to this one lawful process. of expatriation. Well, where do we get that from? What are the rules and guidelines to it? And that's what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to let the cat out of the bag, if you will, finally, and be able to follow along here. It's not that long. It's going to be a couple of key words, though, that I will point out, but I'm not going to go in much detail on it. But you guys are the advanced students. You should be able to catch on a little bit more quickly. And we're also going to touch and highlight on a couple other aspects of it, because if, like any good rabbit hole, one thing leads to another, so on and so forth. So for now, if you go ahead and click and open up that link, just let me check one more time. Yeah, we got a couple of people on the board. If you do want to get on for questions, comment, please don't forget to hit the number 1 on your key, on your phone or on your keypad, and that'll let us know that you have something you want to cover. Okay, while you're there, on that link, if you scroll on down, you'll see that you have all these different volumes. Now, these are the publications of the congressional hearings and meetings and, all that other good stuff. Whole bunch of information within, everything from different treaties to proclamations made by the presidents during the time of sitting. The one that we're interested in for tonight is volume number 15. You'll find that in your right-hand column, almost all the way down at the very bottom. You'll see number 15. If you click on the title page, right, at the very top, you'll see where it says Turn to Image. And right now it's showing as I, meaning the first page. That's what you should be looking at. And it tells you, by authority of Congress, the statutes at large, treaties, and proclamations of the United States of America from December 1867 to March 1869. That just gives you an idea of the date range that we're dealing with and when certain things took place. Now, this is a very exciting time in history, you could say. An awful lot took place in this very short period of time. Within here is where the Reconstruction Acts begin to take place with the Constitution. For those not familiar, your Reconstruction Acts are your 13th Amendment on up. So more directly, the 14th Amendment is the one we often speak about. Also about this time is where the so-called, I think a lot of the Civil War stuff may even be mentioned within this as well. So there's a lot of interesting reads. But again, we don't have to be overly concerned with everything in there. It's great if you want to go through it. I already did that for you and have marked the actual pages, which makes everything real easy. All right. While you're looking there, right underneath turn page where that I is, if you highlight that section so you can get rid of the I, and you're going to type in number 223. That's 223, and simply hit enter or click on turn to image. If you do that, it should automatically bring you to page number 223. And we're going to scroll all the way down because this starts at the very last paragraph on that page, what we're going to be speaking about. And if you scroll down and you look at the information on the right, you also see dates, and then we're going to start reading about this, what's taking place here. This is a very short read, but it is the key to everything. Now we look, it says an act concerning the rights of American citizens. That's a key word, remember that word. In foreign states. Well, what are the foreign states? We all know that as the states that make up the Union. They are foreign to the United States. And this takes place July 27th, 1868. And if you look, it says Rights of American Citizens in Foreign States Preamble. Whereas the right of expatriation is a natural and inherent right of all people, indispensable. Get that word? Indispensable. In other words, you can't do without this, folks. It's telling you to the enjoyment of the rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And whereas in the recognition of this principle, this government has freely received immigrants from all nations and invested them with the rights of citizenship. Now remember, we always talk about citizens being the evil word. However, this predates the 14th Amendment. This takes place just before the 14th Amendment. And we're going to see how wordings start to change as we go through here. So, invested with them the rights of citizenship. And whereas it is claimed that such American citizens with their descendants are subjects of foreign states, owing allegiance to the government thereof. Again, we're going to pause here for a second. They're clearly telling you that each state that makes up the Union is not only its own individual nation, its own individual country, but that American citizens owe their allegiance to the individual governments. At this time, they do not owe their allegiance to the United States of America. Right? And it clearly shows that those states are foreign to the United States of America. And whereas allegiance should be promptly and finally disavowed therefore. Now, if you click on the very next page, so if you just scroll down the bottom, it says previous page, next page, click on next page, and that will bring us to the top of page 224. If you're there, it tells you we're still continuing, and it ended with there, be enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, that any declaration, instruction, opinion, order, or a discussion of any officers of this government which denies, restricts, impairs, or questions the right of expatriation is hereby declared inconsistent with the fundamental principles of this government. Okay? So what they're telling you right there, that no government official, that's from the president on down, folks, can question the right of expatriation. This is the only lawfully recognized path back to the republic and out of the de facto system. Clearly stated here, folks. It's not brain surgery. It's not that complicated. They're not using a bunch of fancy words. We're going to keep going with this. Section 2. And be it further enacted that all naturalized citizens of the United States, while in foreign states, shall be entitled to and shall receive from this government the same protection of persons and property that is accorded to native-born citizens in like situations and circumstances. Again, protection of naturalized citizens in the foreign states. You're covered, folks. You got all the protection. Section 3. This is the last section of this, for this particular page. And be it further enacted that whenever it shall be made known to the President that any citizen of the United States has been unjustly deprived of his liberty by or under the authority of any foreign government, it shall be the duty of the President forthwith to demand of that government the reasons for such imprisonment, and if it appears to be wrongful and in violation of the rights of, here's our key words, American citizenship, the President shall forthwith demand the release of such citizen. And if the release so demanded is unreasonably delayed or refused, it shall be the duty of the President to use such means, not amounting to acts of war, as he may think necessary and proper to obtain or execute such release, and all the facts and proceedings relative thereto shall as soon as practicably be communicated by the President to Congress. Approved July 27, 1868. I don't know how much of a higher backing you can think of, folks. I've talked many times over the year how status has power and what it really means. Now, within this paragraph, though, there are two distinctions. The first part of number 3 talks about section 2 is the United States citizen, while in the foreign states, in other words, you're residing within one of the 50 countries that make up the Union, i.e. states. All right? When we get to number 3, it very clearly shows rights of the American citizenship. And as one with proper status as a state national or American citizen, guess who the person is that takes care of your butt if anybody was to question our paperwork or our procedures? You go directly to the top of the class, folks. Call up Mr. King O and say, yo, American citizen here. Got a ticket, got this, whatever. Take care of this crap. Boom. You'll be released in 24 hours. All right. No problem. Because nobody has jurisdiction over you. Now, with that guideline and premise and keywords given to you, and now you know who your representative is, as an American citizen who's going to plead your case for you, is not an attorney, is not, anybody else. It's the president himself, he or she, whoever may be in that office. Can't have a higher attorney. Okay? Don't need any higher representative than that. It doesn't get any higher. And it clearly also shows that anyone who refuses the recognition of the expatriation are the ones that are in trouble. It's all right there, black and white, not that difficult to see. I was watching over to chat and answering some things, and we're going to bring that on air, actually. I was asked a question about, what we just covered on expatriation. Now, of course, this is somebody who's been with us a long time, so they're playing the devil's advocate. It appears that Expatriation Act was specifically written to facilitate expatriation of citizens from their state/country to the USA. However, does it apply for those U.S. citizens who want to expatriate out of the USA and back to the state's country? Actually, my response was, this is prior the 14th Amendment. So this is really prior the such existence of U.S. citizens. Although it does mention the U.S. citizen in this, is simply because they had to pass this just prior passing the 14th Amendment. Remember, folks, the 13th Amendment says you can't have involuntary servitude. So in order for this to have the appearance of a lawful government and continue to act on the international level as it was designed to do, and now it's designed as a democracy, changing it from a republican form of governance to a democracy form of governance, they had to give you a way out. Now, does it work backwards? Does this also allow you a way in? We have tons of ways that allows a person to become a citizen of the United States of America. That's what everybody does. So it's really not the same exact section for it to work backwards. In other words, it's designed specifically to take and reserve, more so preserve, the American citizen status. All right? That's the key to this, folks. That's what you have to understand. We always were American citizens under status. Our nationality was that of the state, New Jerseyan, Floridian, Ohioan, so on and so forth. And they had to give us a way out to reserve the American citizenship. So they gave us this 15th statute at large, specifically the expats that we're covering right now. Now, they did this in order to make it appear voluntary, or otherwise it wouldn't work. So really, this particular section does not refer to go the opposite direction. In other words, to have an outsider become a citizen. We have plenty of avenues for that. But it really does only work to get you out or to reserve your American citizenship and get out of the new citizen. For new students, this is maybe a lot of new information for you. Join us on our Wednesday classes, and we will get in a lot more detail to help you understand all that, because we're going to finish up Wednesday. We're going to finish up Treason by Design and get into the dual citizenship documentations, and that'll be Wednesday. Also, please do not forget about tomorrow night, part 2 of our special broadcast, Freedom or Surrender. Okay, with that, now I want you to go up there where it says Turn Image. We're going to change that page number again. And, well, hang on. Let me double-check something real quick just to make sure that I want to jump up there right away. Yeah. Okay, we're going to change that page number now to 664. 664. Hit enter or turn to image, and that will bring you to the top of page 664. Now, the reason I brought you to this page is if you actually went into the index and scrolled through it in alphabetical order and you looked up the word expatriate, it's going to direct you to a couple of different sections. We already covered page 223 and 224, which is the Expat Act itself. Now, also in there it mentions the treaty with Bavaria. This is May 26, 1868. Now, you try to read straight across. Of course, you're supposed to read everything, in this type of page form, top down, you to the left of the divider, just in case. You may not understand it because it's in a foreign language. So it's the left side of the column that you want to be looking at. That is the English. The other side, I would believe, is the native tongue of Bavaria. And the reason I bring this up is because, like I said, if you look it up in the index, it refers you to this section. And as reading through it and going over it, I was like, okay, I had some questions that popped up, and still not 100% sure of the answer, about 90% sure of it, from my understanding of reading it, but we'll see what happens. Let's start through this. If you scroll down to, let's see, although it looks like it starts in the middle of a sentence, so let me go back one page just to make sure. Okay, yeah, all right, that's why I started there. Really what you want to do, if you just want to go glance back quickly, Go to 661. That is actually the start of the treaty with Barbaria. It's page 664 is where we're going to get the wording of the expat. But this way, I just want to show you that the whole entire treaty is here. And it simply says, May 26, 1868, treaty between the United States and the King of Barbaria concerning the citizenship of immigrants, concluded at Munich, May 26, 1868, ratified September 18, 1868, proclaimed October 8, 1868, by the President of the United States, May 26, 1868, a proclamation. And then there's the preamble. Whereas a treaty concerning the citizenship of immigrants between the United States of America and His Majesty the King of Bavaria was concluded and signed by their respective plenipotentiaries, however you would say that word, at Munich on the 26th day of May, 1868, which treaty, being in the English and German language, is word for word as follows. Now we know what language that right-hand side of the column. Now we're not going to read through this. I just wanted to let you know where to find the beginning of it if you really want to go and read it all. But our concern is, of course, we're going to go back over to 664, because this is where we're going to start finding the information on expatriation and how they arranged this at the time for the Bavarian citizens. It is made use of. It follows, of course, that not the naturalization alone, but an additional 5 years uninterrupted residence is required before a person can be regarded as coming within the treaty. Now, before I do that, let me double check something. Yeah, all right. Relating to the first article of the treaty, inasmuch as the copulative, stuttered tonight, and it is made of use of the following. What they're talking about is these are the guidelines in order to become a citizen if you're a in order to follow this treaty type of deal. It gets a little bit clearer. I'm not explaining well, but that's because my eyes are very blurry all day. All right, residence is required before a person can be regarded as coming within the treaty. In other words, if you haven't resided within 5 years within the United States, you do not fall under this treaty. But it is by no means requisite that the 5 years residence should take place after the naturalization. It is hereby further understood that if a Barbarian has been discharged from his Bavarian indigenate, or on the other side, if an American has been discharged from his American citizenship in the manner legally prescribed by the government of his original country, and then acquires naturalization in the other country in a rightful and perfectly valid manner, then an additional 5 years residence shall no longer be required. But a person so naturalized shall, from the moment of his naturalization, be held and treated as a Bavarian, and reciprocally as an American citizen. Now, when I read this, the first thought that popped into my head, and the same thought popped into everyone else that I discussed this with earlier. At this point, we all kind of came to the same conclusion. Now, what does that say to you? Be held and treated as a Bavarian and reciprocally as an American citizen. Now, we already know from page 223 and 224, American citizen is the true status, which puts you back in the Republic. So, if being treated as a Bavarian and at the same time as an American citizen, does this place one who has status as an American citizen and not a USA citizen under this treaty?
I would say so.
That's the impression I got. Now, I'm sure, of course, there's a lot more into that, as I have not gone through the process, and that information is all under lock and key at the office, so myself. So these are just assumptions on my part, if you will, and everyone else who has read this. It's like, well, it kind of ties in together, and that's why in the index it refers you to both these sections. And then, of course, it goes into the, the rest of the relating to the second article of the treaty and so on and so forth. But we don't need to go any further than all that. Now, what struck me as also funny is while going through here, and you look in the expat of the index, there's something else mentioned there. And that is the treaty with Russia. And it said 924. Well, I scratched my head because this particular statute at large doesn't go up to 924 pages. So I was like, wait a minute. Something ain't right there. And then I looked a little bit more, and it fell under U.S. citizens, and it's actually page 542, not 924. So now if you turn over to page 542, this is the treaty with Russia, March 30th, 1867. Now remember, this all takes place right around the 14th Amendment. This is why I brought this up. And we're going to look right at the top where it says Article 3. This is the article in question. If we look off to the far left, it says rights of inhabitants of the ceded territory. Those civilized shall become citizens of the United States. Uncivilized tribes, the next section. And we read this short little paragraphs here, and it says, the inhabitants of the ceded territories, according to their choice, reserving their natural allegiance, may return to Russia within 3 years. But if they should prefer to remain in the ceded territory, they, with the exception of uncivilized native tribes, shall be admitted to the enjoyment of all the rights, advantages, and immunities of citizens of the United States, and shall be maintained and protected in the free enjoyment of their liberty, property, and religion. The uncivilized tribes will be subject to such laws and regulations as the United States may, from time to time, adopt in regard to aboriginal tribes of that country. What is taking place here, folks, is we purchased the Northern Territories, I believe it's referring to the Alaskan territories up there, from Russia. And instead of moving all their people off that section of land, this was the treaty. Down to say very similar with the Bavarian Treaty. But however, you may notice something, the wording changed. In the Bavarian Treaty, we had a clear mention of American citizens. In this treaty, you don't see the words no longer American citizens. Now you see advantages and immunities of citizens of the United States. Well, where do we get that language out of? Right out of the 14th Amendment, folks. One was pre-14th Amendment. This one was just after the 14th Amendment. And all this took place, all in basically the same year or two. This all came about. It's how quick they hid this in the darkness, if you will. Well, I'm just giving you guys all the lineups anyway. Question coming from the Skype. If history serves me right, didn't the Tsars of Russia fund the Civil War? I really don't know, to be honest. I don't know who did the funding of the Civil War. I know there was many outside countries that was coming to help the South fight. That's why the North almost lost. However, unfortunately, at the time, their access to get to us from France and other places that were coming here to help us were blocked. They were blocked out at sea by the Navy or whoever, and they were unable to reach us in time. And it was upon almost losing the war to begin with, and Lincoln was in such sad, poor shape, the North was really getting ready to lose, is when all of a sudden, out of the blue, they came up with this whole Emancipation Proclamation to free the slaves. They didn't free anybody. They freed the slaves of the South only. He didn't even free the slaves of the North people. All right. He only freed the slaves of the South because he needed more fighters. He wanted them to get up there and fight on his side. Look, I'm giving you freedom. No, all I'm just giving you is another form of slavery, but I ain't telling you that. So that's where that all came about. And then, of course, they tried to sell the whole world in history books. That's why they call it the Civil War, which it wasn't. It was a war between states, a war of nations. And it was all about slavery. Really, if it was all about slavery, why didn't it happen in the beginning of the war? It didn't take place until the North almost lost. They were starving. They were out of everything. The South had all the food, folks. It was real easy to starve out the North. They didn't have a chance in hell until they came up with this brilliant idea of let's free the slaves. Now, the next thing I looked into, because I was like, all right, well, let's see what we can find in reference to American citizens, since that's the term in question here. And I looked in the index, and I looked all over, and guess what it did? It sent me to where we started from, page 223, 224. And then it also dropped in page 615. 615 is the treaty with the King of Prussia. Not Russia. Prussia, or Prussia, or however you want to say it. And that took place over in Berlin. So again, this is pre-14th Amendment. I would assume, I have not read this section, I'm assuming it's got to be pre-14th Amendment because it specifically mentions American citizens. So that's something to mark and look over. We're not going to go over much of that because I didn't pre-read it. But it's just to give you an idea if you want to follow the rabbit hole a little bit more. And again, it's about naturalization of the people between one party and another. And then I went a little bit further. And it also popped up with 661. Well, we did that one. That's the Bavaria Treaty. And I looked a little bit more, and I found page 687. That's Convention with Mexico. Convention with Mexico. I don't know why it's not referred to as a treaty. But this one's referred to as a convention with Mexico. That took place July 10th, 1868. It's a convention between the United States of America and the Republic of Mexico for regulating the citizenship of immigrants.
But there's a little thing here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, just quickly kind of glanced over it. And it says those citizens of the United States who have been made citizens of the Mexican Republic by naturalization and have resided without interruption in the Mexican territory 5 years shall be held by the United States as citizens of the Mexican Republic and shall be treated as such. Reciprocally, citizens of the Mexican Republic, okay, from their republic, who have become citizens of the United States. Aha. Okay. And then you do the 5-year uninterrupted thing. Okay. Let me see here. Changing pages. Yeah. They've been United States citizens for 5 years, shall be held by the Republic of Mexico as citizens of the United States. It doesn't say anything about being American citizens. It doesn't even mention our republic at all. You know, it says the declaration of an intention to become a citizen of one or the other country, blah, blah, blah. Naturalized citizens of either the contracting parties on return to the territory of the other remain liable to trial and punishment. It just goes on and on. But yeah, the thing that it doesn't mention is the American Republic when it should mention the American Republic, because those people would be coming out of a republic into a democracy. I don't think that's fair.
Hey, all is fair in love and war, and remember, the war still hasn't ended.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, that's all my notes as far as the treaties go, and where the Expatriation Act is found, and how the American citizen all comes into play. And then if you want to look into the word just U.S. citizen, let's see, do I have anything on that? I think I had a couple of things I was looking at, comparing on that one. And no, it pretty much just goes back because it's just the way the language changed. So we're looking at what happened pre-14th Amendment, and then what happened post the 14th Amendment, how the language quickly changed, and how it all changed, right? All within this all takes place in like a year or two spans. This isn't a long period of time when all this stuff took place.
Yeah, they did a really quick job of shutting down the republic, didn't they?
Yeah, and they did it in writing quickly. Okay. However, people didn't realize what truly was taking place. And most people to this day still do not realize what has taken place, simply because they were never told. Though everything has to be published, or reading the publication, everything is required to be published. There's no requirement saying you have to read the damn thing.
Yeah, that is true.
It has to be published, made available to the public. Now, of course, this was before internet, so these things were posted as they came out of Congress and out of the Senates and whatnot. These things were posted at the local post office, on the local town board, hall meeting boards, or wherever, wherever it may have been. But everything was always posted, and they did have printing presses by this time, obviously. So. But that's just to give you a little history, a little background of what's going on, and just to how quickly see the language change, and how easily, once you learn how to do it, how easily you can simply, go into the index of these statutes at large and look up for yourself and follow the rabbit hole. It didn't take me that long to really go through it. It took me about a few minutes because I couldn't actually turn to the immediate page for finding the index. So I had to go through alphabetical order and keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling until I got to the E's, so on and so forth. So it was a little tricky to do that. But other than that, it really wasn't that hard. And it's very clear. There's no bones about it. It's clearly laid out in pages 223 and 224, it is the only lawful path, folks. So all these other whimsical ideas that you hear about, all these other so-called ways out of the system or workarounds for the system and all, it's all bogus, folks. There's only one lawfully recognized path. That's expatriation. Period. There's nothing else. All the rest of these are nothing more than distractions, disinformation, and disinformation agent provocateurs, so on and so forth. I got a caller. That might be. Yes.
Hi.
Hey, I thought it was you, though.
Of course. Besides Deatra, who'd be calling from a 541 area code, right?
No, you're right. And also, it's like I really memorize all these things.
Good evening, everybody. Hi, Hose. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and you?
I'm good. I'm on my way to go work for the Lazy. I wasn't able to do it last night because they changed the locks over at one of my accounts. So I have to do two tonight, so I'm a little behind. But yeah, I'm on my way to go make money for the Lazy. Just thought that I'd come on and say hi anyway.
There you go, kiddo. Well, we always say when you come in and can join us. But I go up and get that work done. Your mic is live, honey, so.
I'm always rocking out to that song. Yes, that is one of my favorites. That and a couple others I've told you about. Thank you. I appreciated that. That made my night.
You're very much welcome. Don't work too hard, kiddo.
Are you kidding me? I hardly work.
There you go. I was reading over some of the chat questions, and we're going to cover some of them. And you guys are both right. Chris and pleased to meet you are both right on the ball tonight. They're getting it. They're understanding it. They realize what's happening. Someone had asked about what was the actual agreement between two or more nations when it comes to the treaties. And this is just real simple. It was just a stipulation point that, in other words, it's not a war. We're either purchasing the land from you, and your citizens have, some of them were 3 years, some of them are 5 years. You either have the choice to move back to your homeland, okay, or land that your king or whoever may still own, or remain in the new purchased land and become without any stipulations or attachments to it, and become, after so many years, become a citizen of either of the United States. So that's the simplicity of it. It's really easy. I'm looking over the chat here. Let's see. Simply recognize the right of nationality. Exactly, Chris. And this is on all laws. So this goes all the way back. We have a lot of case law on it as well as here, but it goes all the way into international law, ecclesiastical law. It all regards nationality and the birthplace of the father. Remember, even when we had spoke about... step back, please. Sorry, I was talking to my daughter. Everything falls back to the father. The mother's nationality does not, nor ever has, come into play throughout history. It doesn't matter. It's always been the father's nationality that you would inherit. Well, if your father was a U.S. citizen, guess what? So are you. That's simple. Now, if your father was an American citizen or state national, your child then would also, again, inherit that nationality. So you're not doing this for yourself. You're doing this for your future generations. Provided that child is taught correctly and does not contract with the de facto system. That's where we make the mistakes. We don't realize that everything we do is contract. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which is the treaty that is unique to New Mexico, I don't know if it applies to Colorado also, but it specifically states that people have their choice to either be Mexican citizens or U.S. citizens. Of course, that whole debacle, that was a big old mess because, I mean, they proclaimed war against Mexico and then paid them for the territory that they took and set up a treaty. And I don't know, a lot of the things that they do them ass backwards. But I was tending to read through through that treaty, and even but it comes down to when you're born. The government says, "Oh no, wait, you were born here in Washington D.C." For their magical purposes and all that. But that's all 14th Amendment stuff too.
Right. That's why we got to be very careful, and we have to always make sure we look at these dates, because the language changes from before and after. So that's what we have to watch out for. Everything comes down to consent, and that consent can be silent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In order for you to be recognized, you have to withdraw your consent of the contracts. And there's all these people are out there coming up with these crazy, off the wall sometimes whimsical ideas. And some are just so far out there, it's like I just shake my head like, how the hell can anybody fall for this crap? Show me in the law where it says any of that stuff. They can't, because it's all BS. But we can turn to the law, and we can turn to the congressional records, and look up on page 203 and 224 and quite clearly see, hello, Expatriation Act. That clearly shows each state within the Union is its own nationality, nation, country. Period. We need nothing more. I don't know why these people, other than because they're well paid and published by the government, because they don't want you to know this truth. It is so simple. Now, of course, when you're talking with laws, procedures, and all this stuff to withdraw your consent, which is the process, hey, that takes time and research and, a whole team of researchers working together to perfect it, and that's what the People's Awareness Coalition has done for us. They've already perfected this, folks. They've been doing this for 15 years. Okay? No problems. Real easy. Takes you about 90 days on average from beginning to end, provided you don't have a whole bunch of debt and a whole bunch of other craziness going on with contracts, because it always comes back to the contract. That's all it's ever ruled on, folks. You see and hear, and they list statute laws, which we know are the private laws, whenever they do anything. Or they come up with these coded laws, for building codes and that code and this code and that code. And, the list goes on and on and on and on and on forever. But the bottom line is, all right, well, so what? You got a statute law. Well, how does that apply to me? It applies through contract. All right, well, what contract did I enter into for that particular statute to apply to me? And when we're talking traffic, the contract that you signed into was your driver's license. That is the contract. That is why you have to sign your driver's license. Anything you have to sign, no matter what it is. Cable bill, telephone service, cell phones, dish network.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yeah, dear.
Sorry about that, hon. My question is this. I am through a major phone company as far as my cell phone company goes. Now, it is still in my deceased husband's name. When I become state national, can I keep it that way, or do I have to go with a different phone that doesn't require a contract?
Nope, you can keep it the same way it is.
Okay, just don't put it in my name? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, not a problem. But even if you did, it's not a problem. The phone company contracts with, you're going to contract. We have the right to unlimited contract. You're just not contracting with your Social Security number. That Social Security number shows you as a federal employee. If you have a Social Security number, and why they can withhold taxes is because by law you're a federal employee. They don't tell you that, but that's how the law reads. So as long as you're not attaching anything federal from the Federation You're good to go with any contracts you do. Remember,
I
we do
also
everything.
have
Yeah, we do everything everybody else does. We just do it a little bit differently.
Okay. I have another question, too. I was going to ask earlier, but I was charging my phone. That's why I didn't call in. I think I stated this before, but I don't remember. I was on the highway because I had a flat tire, and some officers, pulled up behind me and wanted to know what was going on and stuff. And I was talking to them, and I'd asked them if they knew what a state national was, and they both looked at me puzzled. And so anyway, I went into, trying to explain it as, little sentences as possible, whatever. And I told him that, can't give me tickets, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And he was telling me, he says, well, we know of a foreign national, but we don't know of a state national. And if you are on our roads without a driver's license or jurisdiction C, so yes, I can and I will write you a ticket. Is that the case? Because I've heard several different things from different officers around here.
You got to realize the officers are not taught of this stuff. None of them are. All right now, like he said, the foreign national. Well, that's what you are. You're a foreign national. Each state is a foreign country within itself. We are within the Union, made up of 50 individual foreign countries, and all of them are foreign to the United States and its jurisdiction. Now, remember, your paperwork is not going to say until the very end is going to say anything about state national. That is a coined phrase by the People's Awareness Coalition. That is not what your lawful paperwork will show. All right, and when they go and look up this information in their computers, more than likely it's going to show up to them possibly deceased. That's more than likely, depending on their computer system, is how it's going to show up. But again, always keep in mind, the fight is never with the officers. Hey, we educate them the best we can. I know. But hey, if they give you a ticket, say thank you. Thanks for the ticket. Look at it as a game. Hey, this is great. Let's have fun. Now I go home, I call the Attorney General. He calls their boss, and it's like, you just got your ass chewed out by the big boss. That's the way we look at it, because it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, throw this in the garbage, will you? That's really what it comes down to. You got to look at it like you're playing a game in the sandbox, all right? Look at it childishly. Don't get upset. Say thank you. Hey, give me all the tickets you want. That's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to affect you any way, shape, or form. And the more tickets that you can get written, now I'm not saying going out there and do stuff wrong to get pulled over. All right? Don't get me wrong. But I'm saying the more attention that we can have this brought to the superiors, the higher-ups, into the court system, the more officers are going to realize, hey, wait a minute, they didn't teach me this at the academy. They didn't teach me this, because they're not going to tell them. They don't want them to know. They don't want the officers to know the truth. Okay? They just want them to, do what they're told. Do what you're told, and don't worry, don't ask questions kind of deal.
Hey, Doc.
Yeah.
You ever wonder why it is they don't want the officers to know the truth?
Well, yeah, because they're afraid they ain't going to work anymore. That's just for starters.
Well, that's one.
Hang on, I got a question in the chat here. Cloud Nation, thank you for joining us. No, it's not a left-wing, right-thing stuff. We're talking law. This is about expatriation, which is the only lawful path to reclaim your true and proper nationality. We've been teaching these classes for 4 years. If you're new, please join us on Wednesday nights. And we have beginner classes. You're only a couple of weeks behind in the beginner classes, and we do reviews all along. And we often restart the beginner classes. We'll do a couple of months on Wednesday nights to get the beginners caught up. And then Thursday nights here, we have a whole lot of fun. And we cover everything and go in more detail. But thank you for stopping in. I appreciate the question. And anytime, please feel free to call in. It's strictly law, nothing more, nothing less. It's just facts, what is recognized, what is not. That's going on out there in the movement. But no, they don't tell. They tell anybody anything, and they tell the officers, even in just the last 5 years, even 10 years, every 5-year period, the new officers that come in actually get taught less and less of what the old timers were taught. Because just like they dumbed us down in the school system, they're dumbing down our officers. All you need to know is this is how you write a ticket. This is how many, if you got a quota, some people do, some people don't. This is how many tickets you need to write out a month. If you don't, you're going to get penalized in whatever fashion. Usually it's 3 days suspension without pay or something like that, depending on where you live. Varies from county to county. This is all they want. That's all they want you to know. You don't need to know nothing else. Go out there. This is how you blow lights. This is your 10 code. Learn your 10 code, and this is how you fill out paperwork. Have a nice day. They don't want you to know anything else. You shoot and defend yourself, and all that stuff they'll teach you. But as far as on the law side, even today, it used to be a requirement. Now I think it's become a suggestion. But most officers only really receive about 16 hours total of actual law instruction a year. And most of them don't even get that. So they don't know law, just like us. They're not being taught. They don't know it. That's why our fight is never with them, because they don't know. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I get a lot of the questions, what are you, some sort of a shithouse lawyer or jailhouse lawyer?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm not a lawyer in any shape or form. I don't practice at law. I actually jump in and swim around in it and get all, in it. I don't practice. I do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always been the fun part about all this is when they, you start to see titles, folks. Just like HR. Where did we come with human resources? When the hell did we become a resource from personnel department? And as you go through life, you may not have noticed it. No, very few people ever did notice it until somebody points it out to you, or one day the light bulb goes off and it's like, aha, I get it. This is why verbiage is key. This is why we go over this stuff and we show you, here's the law, here's the treaties, here's how it's all written out in the congressional records. Here's what it says in the law dictionaries. And we use more than just one law dictionary here, as you guys have learned throughout the years. Even for our new people, they understand that. We quote from different sources, all pertaining to law. So it's not hard. A lot of people think it's real hard and tricky. It's not. Procedures and filing paperwork and all this other garbage that the law system's involved in, their private law system that they do, that's all madness. All right? That's just, not what we teach. We're not going to teach you any of that garbage because you don't need it. You're either a citizen, slave, subject to jurisdiction thereof, all language of the 14th Amendment, folks, or you're not. There's, it's a simple two-headed coin, folks, or a heads and a tail or whatever. You're either a Republican form of governance with proper status falling under the organic constitutions of your individual countries, all right, where we all belong to begin with, that our founding fathers set up, or you're a democracy, USA, citizen belonging to the District of Columbia, 10 miles square, and what can I tell you? You have no rights. You have permits. Permits equal permission from mommy and daddy. Ooh, can I have a gun? Ooh, can I build an addition on my house? Ooh, mommy, can I have a new car? Ooh, can I have a driver's license? Hello? I mean, come on, people. Are we 2 years old playing at recess, in preschool here, or are we friggin' adults? But this is the way you have to talk sometimes in order for it to sink in. It's like, because we've been so far dumbed down. We've been so far brainwashed and indoctrinated to all this garbage that we don't see it. We just simply don't see it. And sometimes it takes that little goofiness and that little laugh to sit there and say, oh, shit, I could have had a V8. That's what I think of every time I see that commercial and the guy smacks himself in the forehead, I could have had a V8. Oh, good. I could have been a state national. I wouldn't have had to fall for all this crap. I wouldn't have to pay taxes. I wouldn't have to drivers, no insurance. We're going to do this anymore. That's kind of the way we got to look at it. You slap yourself in the forehead and say, could have had a V8.
Well,
oh man, I love our Thursday nights. We get a little punchy and crazier on our Thursday nights. If you're just joining us and haven't figured that out yet, please feel free to call in 714-868-0749. We always love hearing from you, getting your questions and comments. Because hey, there's no such thing as a dumb question, folks. We've all been dumbed down. We've been doing this a long time. We know this stuff pretty much forward, backward, and inside out. And nobody's got their hands up on the board right now. We do have several callers, and that's always good to see. But please don't forget to hit the number 1 on your keypad or your keyboard, depending on how you're calling in, so we know you want to get on air. Now, I want to go back. I posed a question earlier with our study tonight on the 15 statutes of art and the whole Bavarian thing. And we all kind of came to the same agreement. Well, we fall under that treaty. Right? This is what the agreement we all came under, right? Well, sorry, that's not true. We all got that question wrong. We do not fall under the Bavarian Treaty. We fall under American citizen. We fall under the nationality of our state. As each state is its own country, has its own constitution. We have our own governments. We have our own everything. We don't have a king. We don't have a president. We have our own legislative bodies. We have our own attorney generals. All right, that's what you fall under. We do not fall under the Treaty of Bavarian. I know that's a big shocker to a lot of us because that's the first time I've let that out of the bag. But it does show you how the language changed. Okay, how it changed from one to the other. The treaty we fall under is simply page 223 and 224 of the Expatriating Act. The guidelines that they all must follow. If they violate our guidelines, the president, whoever is president at the time of the foreign government, is obligated to, by contract of their own ruling and law, to come to the rescue, if you will, of an American national. And it says in foreign territory because we are in our proper territory, but to D.C., it is considered foreign territory. So it might be a little confusing if you're new to the program, but you'll get through it. That was a nice track. We did the same thing. We did this for a couple of weeks, actually. We've been messing around on Skype trying to figure it all out and putting two and two together, and we were all like, well, does this put us under that? But then with a little bit more thought, it was like, no, can't put us under a treaty because we were never held the nationality of the Bavarian king. We were never part of that nation to begin with. So therefore, it cannot apply to us as the treaty. So that was your test for today.
There you go.
That was the test for today. But yeah, we all made the exact same assumption in all my discussions I've been having for the last week on this particular topic. But yeah, I just thought that was a lot of fun to do that with y'all, because y'all came up with the exact same thing, which is great. At least we know we're all crazy together, right?
Well, if a person within their, let's take, for example, me. If I was to expatriate, and in a document that says, I'm expatriating, if I were to go through it and go through the 14th Amendment and completely refute the 14th Amendment citizenship part within that document, would it make it more accurate?
No, I know what you're referring to. You're not. All you're really doing is renouncing. You don't even have to tie the 14th Amendment in it. We know that's where it came from. We know that's where it's all about. But when you're doing the paperwork, basically, because I know you've been working a long time, you've been trying to mess with on your own for a long time. We don't have to clearly say it's because of the 14th Amendment. All you're doing is you're rescinding your consent to U.S. citizenship and returning back to your correct and natural nation, your nationality. That's what it comes down to. You're reclaiming back your nationality of birth, which is, Floridian, New Jerseyan, Californian, whatever, so on and so forth. That's really all it is. But of course, there's a whole lot more involved because of everything is contract, and you have to break each all those contracts have to be broken. You're not breaking the contracts of U.S. citizenship. You're breaking the contracts of Social Security, which only applies to which Social Security doesn't even have to apply to a U.S. citizen. All right, so it's you got to learn how to understand all these different contracts, and we've broken those down over the years. You got to uncontract with your bank account, your big bankers, because your Social Security number is attached to it. So you got to do your bank account different. You can get a bank account, you just can't open it and have it attached to your Social Security number. You got to redo your contract with your employer because you're no longer, again, no Social Security number, so you can't contract through a W-4 form and get a W-2 and all that, and there's no withholdings because you have to be now a subcontractor. You recontract with your employer. So that contract has to be taken care of. Then you got your driver's license. That's another contract that has to go away. So that binds you to the private statute law. So there's all these little steps and procedures you have to go through to fully complete the process. It's not just one little paper, blanket covers all. It doesn't work that way. There is something like 28 separate documentations that have to get, filled out, filed with the courts and, so on and so forth to complete it all properly. And that's what LB has perfected for us all, which makes it so much easier. Why try to do it the hard way? And when somebody else has already gone before you, laid the path out, and could do it the right way the first time.
Right.
But it is fun to try to do, and I understand that.
Well,
it's good education.
Well, there are going to be people that are going to be asking, about the Social Security contract, because I don't believe that the Social Security thing any longer applies only to U.S. citizens. I mean, I've heard of, people overseas.
It never applied to U.S. citizens. Never.
So why break that contract? I mean, if they're going to pay us money later on.
You've utilized it, so you've contracted with them. When you got the Social Security number, you contracted with them. Just like when you got your driver's license, you contracted with them. You have to break that contract. Follow me? There are two current Chris is explaining in our other chat, for those of you who may not, from Blog Talk Radio side, I'm going to post it in there in case you don't see it. But the very top link that was put in tonight is the Freedom Marines chat room. Feel free to join us there. That chat is open 24/7. But Chris is putting in, there are two concurrent constitutions, right? They run side by side. Okay, we are renouncing the one and pledging allegiance to your state's constitution instead. Correct. The organic constitution, not to be confused with the Organic Act, is also a declaration you can pledge allegiance to, and the D of I is that accurate. You're pretty much right. There's two constitutions. They run concurrent side by side. One is pre-Reconstruction Republic, and the second one is the new Constitution with the 14th Amendment and new citizenship. The reason why it's called running concurrent is because the latter has no choice but to recognize and honor all that is contained within the original. All right. Once you correct your status, you no longer fall under either one of them when it comes at the federal level. that Constitution at the federal level, the USA Constitution for the United States of America, no longer applies to you at all. It disappears altogether. That only applies to U.S. citizens. That's it. Whether you've got status or not, that's all it applies to. When you correct and return back to your rightful republic and pledge your proper allegiance back to your state, then you fall 100% under your state's constitution. And that's why you ask people, they'll say, oh, well, it says in the Constitution. Well, which one? And they'll look at you like chicken with the head on. What do you mean, which one? What's this guy, a nut job? Yeah, which one? There's 51 Constitutions. Al, wake up. Hello. Well, what do you mean? When you ask them what country you're from, and they'll say the USA, and we say, no, USA isn't a country, never has been. Hello? Let me try again. What country are you from? And again, they'll look at you with that deer in the headlight or chicken with the head cut off kind of look like, huh? What the hell is this guy talking about? It's in the law books, folks. You just got to read it. We don't read anymore. We're too busy, like, oh, wait a minute, I got to put you all on pause. I got to go watch American Idol. Yeah, or whatever the event of the day may be. God only knows. I don't watch TV that much, folks. I don't want any of that garbage. But that's the problem with our society. It's all come down to, oh, wait a minute, if you sit back and you can see it from the outside position, you'll laugh your ass off. How your entire, watch your friends, watch your family, watch the routine of the day, and you will see they set their routine for the day by what is on television.
Pretty much.
We do the same thing. Look at Sundays, folks. If you're a sports fan, what do you do on Sunday?
Football!
We got football's on from this time to this time. This time we got church in the morning. We got to make sure we get this done. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, TV's on. We're in front of the TV. Okay, John, Joe, Harry's coming over at this time. Okay, well, there's this, we literally revolve our entire schedule of the day around what is happening on that damn television. That propaganda, brainwashing, indoctrinating instrument you got sitting in almost half your rooms in your house, I bet. Because
why I do not have TV, nor will I ever own cable or anything else, because I don't want my kids involved in that shit either.
Amen, girlfriend.
Got 4 of them in this house. 2 of them get used. I ignore the other one.
Well, I'm not one for saying much. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 5 televisions, 1, 2, 3, 4 laptops, 3 desktops, and all are connected and have the ability to, watch television, watch movies, whatever the case may be, play games, get on the internet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
yeah.
Hey, I'm just guilty as everyone else. The difference is we don't watch television. We have them because that's what we watch our movies on. That's what I watch C-SPAN, the one that's in my office here in my room, right above my computer. I live on C-SPAN, and I enjoy sci-fi. I stay away from all that reality crap. I like sci-fi. But I watch more law stuff than anything else. I watch C-SPAN, and I don't mean like Law and Order and all those. Those are all right, too, once in a while. But, I watch like Investigator ID, which is nothing but all these different court cases and murder trials and, all these type of events. And I watch that to see and pick up on the language being used in the courtrooms, how this all takes place. Because when I was 14 and first started taking pre-law, that was one of our requirements for the course is we had to spend X amount of hours a week down at the local courthouse. Any courthouse you want. And I used to do that. I used to write down to the county courthouse on the weekend. I'd spend the whole day there, find out what trials are going on, and go and sit in on these trials and watch them and take notes from from the audience kind of deal. And it was a lot of fun. It was some exciting stuff. I was sat in on it. It was great. And this is how you learn. You get to see how the game is played, if you will. But if you're not familiar with the game, if you're not comfortable, with the game, you sure the hell don't want to play it. And that's the other beauty thing about becoming a state national and correcting your status. You're no longer in their jurisdiction. There is no courtroom over you. You fall strictly under the guidelines and rules and regulations of the common law with its customs and usage of the area. That's it, folks. It's that simple. And it really is. People just don't understand. Yeah, some people have to take a couple of years to get their debts paid off or get their ducks in a row, if you will, before they can make that end zone, the touchdown, and correct their status. But either way, at least know the truth so you don't fall for the lies, the hype, the scams that are out there. And that's what we teach you here. We teach you the truth. We don't care if you correct your status or not.
Well,
you learn the damn truth so you don't get taken by some of these idiots out there walking around claiming they saved the world. All right? Ain't happening.
Oh, yeah. Like dude, I'm so excited. I just filed my UCC one today. I'm gonna be free in like a week or two. No, dummy. That UCC one is more of a contract that you just contracted yourself way deeper into the system, not out of it.
Nope. Yeah, literally turned over your whole family. That's another thing. Speaking of family. Right.
Well, please happen to mention, Doc, that you said something about adhesion contracts, so I'm trying to clarify it. I'm putting up the actual definition of what a adhesion contract is. Basically, what it comes down to is you go to them and you ask them permission. That's why they give you a license. License means permission, permission slip, like what you would get from your teacher to go to potty during school in elementary. Well, that's what a license is. It's a permission for you to take your car or truck or whatever you have out on to the normal roads that everybody has a right to drive on. But what they're doing is they're going, because the U.S. government supposedly has full rights to control every single part of what is commerce. That's why they give you the plate on the vehicle, and they charge you a yearly rent to use that vehicle, and they charge you, for the permission slip that lasts only a certain period of time, so that you may do business or perform commerce from your vehicle. That does not include driving to and from the place of business, but directly from the vehicle, like as it's stopped by the roadside selling, fruits and vegetables to people as they go by.
In commerce.
Yeah.
From out of, right, from within. Please is also, he's posting the definition in different excerpts from Blackwell's dictionary on adhesion contract. Distinctive feature of an adhesion contract is that weaker party has no realistic choice as to its terms. Also from Black's adhesion, agreement to join, adherence. In other words, to adhere to join in, to be complacent, to comply with. Okay, all these words all link together. You're agreeing by contract, your driver's license, to adhere to the rules of the road. Okay, and because you're a weaker party and you just don't know any better, boom, you're kind of screwed. But that's what it's telling you, and that's why we LOL after that one, because it's it's a joke, but that's how they see it. That's law, though. That's the way. That's what it is. You're adhering to something. So don't sign contracts. Get away from the contract. Talking to contract, this is what I started going to a minute ago, because I was talking about family. Folks, please, because this is another contract, believe it or not, that will be taken care of when you correct your status. Now, a lot of people don't like that, but it is actually covered in what they call the broad scope filing section of the process. Is your marriage license will be null and void. It's a contract with the state. You are committing bigamy. if you have a marriage license, because you're not only marrying your spouse, you're also marrying the state. As the state being a holder of said such contract, it is entitled to the fruits of its labor, of your labor. The fruits of your labor is your children, folks.
Yep.
This is how it works. Right? Very bad contract. If you're getting ready to get married, do not get a marriage license. Right? Marriage license didn't come about until not that many years ago. Prior to that, all marriages and births, like the damn birth certificate, don't need it, was all recorded in the family Bible.
Yep.
Not registered and permitted. You had to go get a permit by the daddy and mommy state. You just had to get permission from your dad, mom, or their blessing, more so than permission, to marry the love of your choice. So, yeah, that's another very dangerous contract. There's an excellent pamphlet out there. You can look it up. I think it's called 7 Evils of Marriage, marriage contract or marriage license, or why should I get a marriage license or something like that. There's one of the churches put that out many years ago. It's still out there on the web. I'll see if I can find it for you and get you guys a link for it.
Well, Doc,
yeah.
You know what they call a marriage license in government, right?
More ownership for them?
Well, they claim it's commercial intercourse.
Oh, shit. Oh, dude. That man. Oh, I gotta remember that one.
Hey, Doc.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you get that link, put it on my Skype for me, please.
Yeah, I definitely will. There's a question in the BTR chat. If you don't get the license, well, who will marry you? The question should be, who would marry you if you got one? Believe it or not, more and more of the Christian denominations, this includes the Catholic churches, folks, which is one of the big ones. If you explain to them the reason why, and with most of them today, you don't even have to, they will marry you. No license required. The preacher, the pastor, the mayor, if you're down south here, the notary, a licensed notary, can marry you. The only thing that person is, they're the masters of ceremony, just like I was when I had my own DJ company. Right? They're nothing more than a master of ceremony. They direct the ceremony. And when they sign, if you ever actually look on a marriage license, when they sign, they don't sign it as the person who married you. They sign it as they're a witness. Okay, they're just the conducting party or licensed party by the state in some fashion to perform this ceremony. And when they sign it as a witness. Okay, that's all they are. They're nothing more than a witness, folks. Nothing magical here. Back in the day, the priest, bring your family Bible with you. If you don't have one, get one. Put it on your, on your registry, if you will, when the bridal registries and all that kind of stuff. Excuse me. Tell them you want to get a family Bible, and if you get a real family Bible, right in the front of the cover, it tells you who is the first party, who's this given to, who was it given from, and right below it we'll start having. You'll have all these blank lines, almost looking like a family tree kind of deal. Married party, boom, boom, names written out in married and maiden name, so on and so forth. Now, the only issue you may have, and it's not really an issue because many people nowadays are hyphenating it, or the women are keeping their own names even after marriage, is if you are actually you're just doing this to get out of this contract, you don't want to have a license, and you're not involved in any contract to begin with. Let me say, as say you're a newly young couple. When the woman, more likely than not, who would want to take the husband's name, when she goes to apply for a driver's license, she's not going to be able to get that driver's license, that contract, issued in her married name, because there's no license to prove. In other words, they're not going to accept. You can't walk into motor vehicles, open up the family Bible, here, say I'm legally married. They're not going to recognize that. So your spouse would have to continue to utilize her maiden name. And most women, what they do is they use that as their middle name and hyphenate or hyphenate, however,
Well,
or the other.
well,
But it's only if you're contracting with the state. It has nothing to do with what is between you and your creator, folks. And that's what people have to understand. Are you marrying permission from the state, or did your creator, your God, whoever, bring you together? Are you doing this in the eyes of the God that you worship, whatever God that may be, or are you doing this in the eyes of the state? And as being a party to that contract, now you have a third party in that marriage. You're in a polygamy marriage by all religious aspects, no matter what religion you follow. You are the state, being a party to that contract, is entitled to the fruits of your labor, which is not your income, folks. That's your kids. And that's where social services come into play. People will say, well, how can you come in and tell me how to raise my kids? Real simple. You got a marriage license, don't you? There's that license. There's that contract that allows them to come into your household anytime they choose.
And
they have
and take your kids away anytime they choose.
And you say you don't have the marriage contract and you had a child out of wedlock. All right, then, well, you have a birth certificate. That birth certificate has what? The seal of the state on it, does it not?
Mm-hmm.
Light bulbs going off yet, folks? That is property of the state. It came out of your womb, but it's technically lawful property of the state until they're 18 years of age. This all falls under the evils of these social services type issues. And folks, I preach this all over because we have listeners from all over the world. They are pushing this program. They're pushing democracy out on everybody. We're fighting wars on all fronts over this. And they're also creeping in all these social service aspects of things. Please, 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 if you're in a country outside of the United States and you see this happening, do everything you can to fight against it. It is nothing more than the legalization of criminalized kidnapping and white trafficking, slavery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I have proof of that simply by the UN. The UN has agreed to this. I have that UN. We don't have time tonight to go into that. But if you go to abovetopsecret.com, look me up, Dr. Meola, Meola, and you will find all my threads, and you'll see one that says UN kidnapping your children, or gives permission to kidnap your children. That's what's taking place around the globe right now. They're pushing these social services. Bad news, folks. If you don't have it, fight it. If we do have it, we need to stop it before it starts. Since we have it here in the Union already, we need to fight it. The way you fight that is with correction of status. Once you do that, your children are also, because remember, they inherit the nationality of the father. That simple. Laws. And then at 18, or 18 and a half, they have to make the lawful decision for themselves whether or not to be an American citizen, a national, whatever, or become a U.S. citizen. Contracts. They have to make that intention clear, and they have to put it in writing, which is real easy for teens to do because they're not contracting anything. All they'll have is a driver's permit or a driver's license. Because all other contracts, even though they got to void out Social Security, most of them don't have bank accounts. They don't have jobs yet. They don't have any of this stuff that ties them to all these other contracts. Because although the parent put the child in these contracts by birth certificate, Social Security cards, all this stuff now they want you to get done at the hospital, right? Guess what? You're not party to them because you have to be the age of consent, which is 18, in order to contract. So no contract made in your name is a valid contract until you become 18. Then you have that choice to make. Do you want to continue with that contract as a U.S. citizen, or do you want to take on the status and the corrected status of a free individual? Choice. And they don't tell you this. That's why our job is here to tell you. It's not that hard. But yeah, social services, real evil. If you haven't got country, get rid of it. Marriage, don't worry about it. There are tons and tons and tons of religions out there that will marry you without that license, including Catholics, including the Catholic churches. Like I say, I would more rarely ask a pastor, preacher, whoever, who is asking for a license. I would definitely look at him and say, I'm sorry, do you serve the government or do you serve God? And if he looks at you with a, deer in the headlight look, time to get another pastor. Because the only thing he's doing, which almost all churches do, is they're following the rule of governance. They're not following the rule of their own teaching, folks. Almost every church out there is what? A 501c corporation. Who do they answer to? King Obama. Who do they answer to? Second in command, the Vatican Pope, who is also falls under ecclesiastic laws, folks.
I got a question, Doc.
Sure, dear.
You earlier, well, in the past shows as well, you had made mention about the child inheriting the nationality of the father. What if the father is deceased before the mother and the child become a state national? So are you saying that my son would still be a citizen, even though my husband has passed away?
No, when you correct your status, since the other biological parent is no longer here, they would that would be a loophole. In other words, you would be okay, but they would still, the child upon 18 and a half would still have to make the official declaration, and do the process, follow the legal guidelines, because at that point they have that choice. So you're good, no problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Huh? Now, if that other party was not deceased, okay, let's say you guys are out there, you have kids and you're divorced, and the female wants to correct her status and she has children. Sorry, your kids are U.S. citizens, but again, only till their 18th birthday. 18 and a half. You have from your 18th birthday to 18 and a half to do this, to do it simply, to declare your allegiance either to your birth country, your state, or to the federal corporation. You have that choice at 18 and a half. Usually pops up about now is a question about selective service. Again, registering for a selective service, not a problem, folks. First of all, you don't have to do it. Read the law of selective service. It says, if you wish to register for selective service, you must do between the ages of 18 and 25, or 28. It doesn't say you must do it, or else it would be only said at the age of 18. Everybody at 18, boom, you must register. End of story. It's not what it says. It says, if you choose to register for a selective service position, not position, but, on that list, which is nothing more than a list that will be used for a draft if a draft ever comes about. That's all it is. Right? You must do so no earlier than the age of 18 and no later than the age of 25 or 28. I can't remember. I'm going by memory. You do not have to register for selective service, folks. Don't worry about it. Remember, everything is voluntary. We do everything by choice in the United States. 14th Amendment usurped a lot of what used to be lawful and put us all in this one cluster in this 10-mile square. But because it's voluntary, you don't have to be. You don't have to remain that District of Columbia foreign citizen within the Union. You can be a true American. Peace out. Sorry, couldn't resist. That there was a comedian or somebody used to do that anyway. I'll tell you, like I said, everybody knows I watch C-SPAN. If you knew, you both saw it tonight. I'm a big C-SPAN buff. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but there's one congressman that comes down in the morning, does his 1-minute speeches. They do these 1-minute speeches on the floor type of deal. And the guy reminds me of Paul Harvey in a way, because at the end of every one of his 1-minute speech, he lays out all this stuff and he goes, and that's just the way it is. Kind of reminds me of Paul, and he's got the voice for it too. And it just kind of reminds me of Paul Harvey with the rest of the story.
Yeah.
When I watch him. But anyway, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Guy's funny as hell. But yeah, you gotta watch. You can watch these shows as comedy, folks. It's nothing more smoke and mirrors, dog and pony. You know, when you watch the Congress and the Senate and all these hearings and stuff, if you watch it for what it really is, who and how and why it applies to certain individuals, what's really going on, you could truly kick back. And the more that you get educated, the more you start absorbing this material, you could put that on, and it literally will be the greatest comedy show you've ever watched in your life once you understand what's really happening. I laugh my butt off every day. That's why I watch it all the time. Not only to keep you guys up on what's going on and what they're, what's going on with all the different bills that they're and whatnot, but just because it's so damn funny. We are down to let me check the board here. I know we're down to the last 5 minutes, folks. So if you guys want any finishing comments here, and we'll play a song to take us out if nobody has any questions or comments or hands up on the board.
No, I don't see anybody with their hand up on the board. I wish somebody would have put their hand up. That would have been great.
Yeppers.
No, the only thing that I've got left to say is, once again, folks, get out there, get to doing some of that research. You got to go look this stuff up. Don't take our word for it. We know what we're saying. We want you to know what we're saying, and you need to know that you can say it too. Do the research
yourself. It becomes yours. You own it, and you absorb that. You know, if we just sat here and you played this recording over and over again, and you absorbed everything we said, you're only parroting and repeating the information we're giving you. But if you physically open that book yourself, click on that link and read that document for yourself, side by side with the law dictionary links that we give you and all, now it becomes something you can own. You can claim possession of that because, hey, I looked it up myself. And that's a big difference than somebody who's just going to parrot other information. And that's a big problem with this movement. Everybody's out there parroting somebody else's ideas, and the ideas aren't always right. Most of the time, they're not. They're wrong. If you're new to the show, I see a couple people have joined us late here in the show. We start our shows at 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our beginner classes, they're started on Wednesday. You're only about 3 weeks in, coming up on our 4th week next week there. So please join us on Wednesday nights. And we'll get you all the catch-up links there. You can listen to it in the archive as well. And the show title, of course, is Community and the Constitution. Tomorrow night, special broadcast, 7 o'clock, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, will be part 2 of Freedom or Surrender. Please, if you can, join us for that special broadcast. That whole series is going to be about a 4 or 5-part series at the most, I think. And we'll be done with that unless other people have questions or comments about that particular topic. It is not the Community and the Constitution show, folks. It is not the topic of law in the aspect that we teach it. It has to do with Islam and what has taken place here and what laws and how our courtrooms, well, it doesn't have laws, but how our courtrooms are even beginning to pass judgments on different cases utilizing Sharia law over our constitutional law or the law of the land or even our own statute laws. Okay, so really deep, really intense show. And that'll be tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Jesse, if you're still with us, if you want to say goodnight, darling.
Yeah, hold on, let me put this down. Good night, everybody. Don't laugh at me, it's not nice. Quit laughing at me, it ain't nice. Good night, and I hope that you guys all have a good weekend, and please join us for tomorrow's show. I listened to the last week, and it was very awesome. And, Doc, I made a mistake last night. The Wednesday show, this next week is going to be our 3rd week. Yesterday was our 2nd, so I totally screwed up on that. I looked at my calendar this morning, I'm like, oops. So I misinformed you, I'm sorry. But have a good night, everybody, and I will be back on Thursday. Well, Wednesday.
All right, love. You have a great week. If we don't see you before then, well, I'll see you in Skype and talk to you in Skype anyway, like always. So be safe. Get back to work for us lazies. Make the government lots and lots of money.
I don't know how much money you can make the government by being a custodian, but I'll sure try.
There you go.
It's not a bad job.
For an hour, or if you're making 100 million, 2 cents either way.
No, it's not. It's not a bad job at all. I love this job. Where else can you sit there and be on the phone for 2-3 hours every night? You know, taking your time, having time to yourself, doing what I love this job.
There you go, sister. All right, we love you. Be safe out there.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Minute left.
I've got nothing. All I got is, again, folks, you know, thank you for listening. Get out there and do the research. I don't know how.
Let me, for you guys real quick, for everybody disappears on me, let me see if I can grab this real quick. The chat room will stay open for a little bit longer on BTR. If you guys are listening, I will pop up a link for you and as soon as I can get to it, because I noticed a lot of new people, and I'm going to drop that in there. There we go. And if you click on this link and bookmark it, please, this is your starting point. That's going to give you your study links and material for the first couple of shows to help you get caught up. That's freedomreigns.us/davidmiola.html. And that's our show page there, and that will get you up to date. Until next time, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. If not, Wednesday. Until then, be safe and God bless. Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.
Good night, everybody.